I get a lot of people asking me if I'm a secular humanist, and I always have to say no. So I took a quiz designed to tell me if I really am. Place your bets on the outcome. I used to do a lot of quizzes, but I really haven't done any in a while. Recently, I had a pretty long discussion on one of my old videos on naturalistic pantheism, so I went looking for a quiz like I took in that video on secular humanism, because I thought it would be fun. So here goes the quiz offered up by Humanist UK, which I think we can all agree has somewhat of a bias, which I'm sure will be reflected in the questions. But hey, what can you do? So let's see if I'm a secular humanist, shall we? So the first question asks what I think about the universe. And I had to answer that I think the universe is a natural place and can be understood best through science. And I think that goes along just fine with the questions I was getting about being a naturalistic pantheist. I just don't see the universe as anything but a place that we all happen to inhabit. I'm not in particular awe of it. Sure, I think there's a lot of things that are fascinating about the universe, things that I enjoy studying, but I certainly don't have a shrine to reality set up in my home. I think that's kinda ridiculous. Number 2, I can tell right from wrong by thinking for myself and the probable consequences of my actions and their effects on others. Now I know that this is a trap, designed to steer you into the secular humanist camp, but you have to remember that almost all of these quizzes are biased and some are ridiculously so. But the simple reality here is that we are an inherent social species, and we rely on each other to survive and thrive. Therefore, any rational person has to consider our impact on others, at least to a certain degree, because not doing so potentially harms our support structure. Remember, our basic moral code is based on enlightened self-interest. I know that I need certain things from other people, and that other people need certain things from me. So long as I can provide those things that they need to them, I ought to expect that they will reciprocate. This is not an admission that humans are magically special, just that we all need each other. When I die, I'm dead. There is no evidence that anything of me remains beyond death. My body rots, everything that I ever was simply vanishes. That's it. Now, I understand why people might be freaked out by that thought, but hey, coming to grips with reality and all that. Things change. For every beginning, there's an ending. You have to deal with the reality that you inhabit, not the reality you wish you lived in. This is part of being a mature adult, something that, unfortunately, far too few people actually achieve. I am most likely to believe something is true if I see evidence that I judge to be valid. Of course, it isn't just that I judge it to be valid, but that it is objectively and demonstrably valid. My opinions on the state of reality really don't matter. How the world makes me feel is irrelevant. I care only about the actual state of the real world and our best current understanding thereof. It's why all of my beliefs are contingent on the evidence and provisional pending newer and better evidence that may come along down the road. Nothing is set in stone. No view is eternal. Everything can change tomorrow depending on new observations and new thinking. When I say that this is how rational people operate, this is it. Clinging to bad ideas simply because they're emotionally comforting, that's just foolish. When it comes to religion, I think governments should stay the hell out of it. Now, keep in mind that I think that society, individual people, should promote rationality, such that we collectively approach that standard. I think there should be a social stigma over irrational thoughts and beliefs. The government, however, is supposed to represent us all, and it should remain impartial, but society as a whole can and should chart the course of change that it sees fit to do so. On the question of whether there's a God, I see no evidence to support the idea that any God or gods exist, Hence, I don't believe in any. This is the only really rational position anyone can take. Now, of course, I'm not saying that absolutely, positively, 100% no gods of any kind could possibly ever exist. I don't know that, but I have to go where the evidence leads, and the evidence simply does not lead to any demonstrably real deity. Maybe that might change in the future, I don't know, but based on what we've seen historically, I wouldn't be holding my breath. The claimed proofs for gods never bear up under any scrutiny, and all of the ones that have been historically made fall apart under modern evaluation. So I won't say never, but it's certainly not looking good. The meaning of my life comes from me. There's nowhere else for it to come from. I decide what gives my life meaning and what I want my purpose to be. I don't need this assigned to me from the outside. I'm perfectly capable of doing it myself. And that meaning and purpose can and will change over time, probably multiple times. My goals change. My opinions evolve. What I want out of life today isn't the same as it was 40 years ago. I can't tell you what to do with your life, just as you can't tell me what to do with mine, but we can hold each other accountable to society, and other than that, just do what you're drawn to do. When I look at a beautiful natural view, none of the above. I mean, I have to choose one, so I picked the quasi-environmental one, but that's really not my position. Certainly, we need to be responsible in our use of the natural world. After all, that's our future and our children's future that can be irreparably harmed if we don't. But I'm not one of those ridiculous tree huggers who think that we should never change anything and people should go live in caves. We, as animals, are going to have an impact on nature. We really can't help but do so. We have to be intelligent in our effect, but to say that we shouldn't have one is just absurd. This is yet another place where people tend to get way overly emotional about reality. Other people matter and should be treated with respect because, well, 3 out of the 4 are true to at least a certain degree, but I'm going with the honest one because they're useful to me. Enlightened self-interest, remember? Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't sympathize with others, that we shouldn't put ourselves in other people's shoes and understand their positions, because, again, that's all part of enlightened self-interest. The one thing I do object to here is the idea that everyone should be treated with respect. Respect is earned, not simply granted, beyond a certain very basic level. People who act like assholes deserve to be treated like assholes. Hitler didn't deserve respect. He deserved a bullet in the head. I have no interest in understanding the mindset of child molesting priests. These people have not earned respect. These people have earned social derision. Other animals should be treated with respect, I guess. Now, I'm an animal lover, but this is another place where I can see the hyper-emotionalism that a lot of people have peeking through. There's a continuum here. You can have a lot of respect and admiration and love for some animals, and not much for others. If a cockroach comes in my house, it's going to get terminated with much prejudice. The natural world doesn't operate on respect. Do you think the lion respects the antelope just before it rips its throat out? Of course not. And we're just animals after all. Now, we do have the ability to intellectually evaluate our actions, and causing needless harm and pain to any living creature, and certainly getting any kind of joy out of it, that ought not be acceptable. But I don't feel sorry for the cow that gave its life so I could have a hamburger. I just don't. And now, of course, they think I'm a humanist, which is no surprise at all because, as I said, these quizzes are notoriously biased and designed to make almost everyone part of their club, literally in this case. Humanist UK wants members after all. But people still ask me why I don't call myself a humanist, and honestly, it's because I run into way too many self-titled humanists who I think are way too extreme for my tastes. These are people who demand things of me that I am not willing to give. like respect for all, no matter how much of a dumbass they are. They want to treat humanity like it's special, which, sorry, we're not. Oh, sure, we are to ourselves, but in reality, we're just a semi-intelligent animal on an irrelevant planet in an unimportant galaxy spinning through space. If we were all wiped out tomorrow, nobody would notice or care, assuming there's any other intelligent life out there. We're just animals. Self-important animals. And I see no point in joining a fan club to myself or wearing a self-congratulatory label. Why bother? So I don't, and I won't. We need to have a realistic view of the world and our place in it. That doesn't mean we sink into despair and nihilism, but stop pretending that we're the end-all be-all of reality. We might be the current top dog of the food chain on an insignificant planet in the asshole of nowhere. And if that makes you proud, I don't know what to tell you. For me, it's just Tuesday.